Welcome to SCAN. My name is Pat Bohse, and I'm the Executive Director of SCAN, Senior Citizen Activities Network. We're located in the Monmouth Mall. When we resume our in-person classes, hopefully in the fall, we will be there. But right now we're virtual and you can join all of our classes that way. I'm really excited about our guest today and about the topic we're talking about because it is a fairly new program to SCAN over the last 2 years, but the results have been tremendous. Today's guest is Brandy Bauer, and she is the Associate Director for the Center of Benefits at the National Council on Aging. Let me just tell you a little bit about them before we get to talk to Brandy. The National Council on Aging is a national charitable organization founded in 1950. And at the age of 71, it has aged well, which seems to be their theme. NCOA was the first organization to speak for and with seniors back in the 1950s and has been very instrumental in getting legislation passed on our behalfs. NCOA is respected for their leadership programs and funding of special programs. And SCAN happens to be a recipient of one of those special programs called Benefit Enrollment Center. So welcome, Brandy.
Thank you, Pat. I'm so glad to be here with you today.
So before we get into the program and this conversation about Boost Your Budget Week, which I just love the title, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you come to our table today.
Well, thank you. I have been at the National Council on Aging for 11 years this week, and I had come from a background of sort of health and human services broadly. I started my career in the DC metro area, working on a wide range of supportive health and human service programs, lived abroad, did that work with vulnerable populations in Asia and in Europe, and then came back to NCOA, where I've been spent the last decade really helping older adults figure out ways to maximize their budgets, to educate them about Medicare, and to really make sure that they are in fact aging well with health and financial security.
Well, I'm really happy to hear about your background because it's a perfect fit for what you're doing and have been doing for the last 11 years. But let's talk a little bit about this budget, Boost Your Budget Week. So again, SCAN is new to your family in regard to this program. We've been with you maybe about 2 years now. And as we get into the program, I can talk a little more about, what we have found and how it has been so helpful. But how did this all come about, this specific week?
Yeah, so we have, as you mentioned, this network of benefits enrollment centers who are doing great work across the country. And one of the things we know is that despite all this work that's being done by community agencies like yours, millions of older adults are missing out on benefits that they're eligible for, but not enrolled in. For example, we know that there are roughly 5 million older adults age 60 and above who are eligible for SNAP, but not receiving that benefit. Another 2 million who are eligible for subsidies that help to pay for Medicare and are not enrolled. And so one of the things that we heard from our community partners was that they needed a way to get out there and tell folks that they're there to help folks learn about these programs and to help them to enroll in them. And so we decided to create this national campaign called Boost Your Budget to really emphasize that getting enrolled in some of these programs can really put money back into your wallet every month and can free up money for beyond necessities to really help you to age and to be able to afford the basic costs of living.
What kind of benefits are we talking about here that people can take advantage of?
Yeah, I mean, first off, there's probably the benefits that people are familiar with, like Medicaid and SNAP, which help with healthcare and food. But there are a wide range of programs that help with other things that they may not be as familiar with. Like I said, there are Medicare subsidies that help to pay for your Medicare premiums and co-payments. There are programs like the National Farmers Market Nutrition Program, which can help seniors to buy food at farmers markets, at roadside stands. There's housing and utility assistance, weatherization assistance, tax relief. There's just a wide range of these benefits that I think very few people know the extent of what's out there.
Yeah, and again, we'll get into this a little further, but not only not knowing what's out there, they just assume they're not eligible. And so what we have found is that once we started the conversation or started working with them and going over, what their assets are or whatever, they were eligible for lots of stuff. I mean, while we might have served 500 people last year in BEC, we had submitted over 900 applications. So there was 400 applications over and above what we've submitted for that particular program. So yeah, I agree. And I don't think that people understand how much money we can save. I think our average benefit to a senior that we work with is over $2,000 a year, so that's an extra $200 a month, a little less than that. And that's money that they could use for anything else if they choose to, versus having to pay these bills. So right. I have to tell you, we weren't sure what we were getting into when we first started, because we're not a social service agency, but we kept hearing about some of the deplorable conditions some of the seniors were living in and not knowing. And not that there's not resources out there, especially in the county that we come from, there's a lot. They just don't know about it. And they can't get to it. I mean, that's the other issue. I mean, so we go to them. And I think that's the beauty of this program, is that we can go to them. We have benefit specialists that go to their buildings or their house or something like that, if that's what's needed. COVID has posed some issues, but I think we're working around that. What have you seen as far as COVID and impacting seniors' finances?
Yeah, we know that, even before COVID, a lot of older adults were struggling and they were making very dangerous trade-offs. Like, do they take their medication or do they buy groceries? Do they adequately heat or cool their home, or, do they spend that money on their transportation? That's been exacerbated by COVID. And we also know that for those who were still in the workforce, the pandemic caused a lot of people to have to leave the workforce, either because their business is closed or because safety reasons. You don't necessarily want to expose yourself. And we know that when older workers are unemployed, they're generally unemployed for a much longer period of time than their younger counterparts. So we don't necessarily know the long-term financial implications of the pandemic, but we do know that these things have already happened. It's likely, based on what happened with the Great Recession back in 2008, 2009, that there's going to be multiple year implications. One of the other things that we've heard is that there's going to be a lot of older adults who are taking Social Security early. You know probably that you can take Social Security benefits as early as age 62, but if you do so before your formal retirement age, you get a reduction in those benefits that last the rest of your life. Unfortunately, many older adults do have to do that because they're left in a difficult situation where they don't have employment and they need to get by.
Yeah, again, and we discourage that as much as possible, because I mean, they lose 20-30% of what they could get if they waited to full retirement age. And what the other piece I find is that people don't have a plan. And we kind of talked about this in regards to retirement. And you can't start too early to have this conversation, but especially as we reach our 60s and before we are Medicaid eligible or for retirement, about what are you going to do? I mean, it's fine and dandy when you have two healthy adults in a household and you're getting potentially 2 Social Security checks, maybe a pension, maybe one works or not. But what happens if one passes away or if something else happens? You go down to 1 check. Can you live on that? And I don't think that, I've met so many people, and that's my mantra. Do you have a plan? So, yeah, but I just don't think that people think it through. And I wish we could talk to everyone one-on-one and give them the tools, but it's really important that they think it through. But the other piece is this kind of information of what's out there. Mm-hmm. So, why do you think so many of the older American adults are not taking advantage of the programs?
We've done some research on this exact question at NCOA, and we sort of came to a few conclusions. And the first one is lack of awareness. Some of these programs like Medicaid, people have heard of, people are familiar with, but a lot of them as familiar with things like Medicare savings programs, which put over $100 back in your Social Security check each month. There's also a lot of misconceptions about some of these programs. SNAP is a perfect example. A lot of people feel like either SNAP is not a program for seniors, it's for people with children. They kind of mix it up with WIC. Or they think, oh, I'm not going to get more than $15 a month. That $15 a month myth is something we've been really trying to fight, because the truth is there are different income requirements for SNAP for older adult households. And there are a lot of deductions that they can take that they don't know about to take advantage of, like excess medical expenses. If you spend more than $35 a month on medical expenses out of pocket, you can deduct that, and that gives you a higher benefit. So that's one key area. Another is that there's just this complexity of the application process. People don't know where to begin, and it's overwhelming. And when you're already dealing with a financial crisis, or you're struggling, the thought of having to call a bunch of offices, to go stand in line at the local social services agency, it is tremendously overwhelming.
Oh, absolutely, especially the forms. And again, the one thing that we had learned during the pandemic is the haves and the have-nots when it comes to technology. People who have it, can afford it, know how to use it, that's one group. But the majority of the people we work with, especially on BEC, they don't have technology. They couldn't afford the internet connection, which is a huge issue. And then even if they did, they still don't know how to upload and send. And I get really annoyed with some of the agencies that we work with who expect that stuff. One of the fabulous things about the BEC specialists that we have is they do that for them. They do it for all of our members, and they take photocopies of their documents and can upload it and send it. And I think we have a really good turnaround time for approvals, like 3 to 4 weeks, which is unheard of. And so everyone's just so very happy. So it works.
And
that's encourage people.
Exactly. And that's one of the really nice advantages of the BEC approach, is that with having that one-on-one assistance, it just means that the older adult doesn't have to focus on troubleshooting. Like, you help them to gather whatever documentation that they need to submit a complete application. So they don't have to go back and forth to the office. They don't have to get questioned multiple times about things. And I know SCAN and our other benefits enrollment centers also follow up on those application processes and really make sure that the people are getting the benefits to which they're entitled.
And the other thing we do is once they're in our system for their annual reevaluation or resubmission, we're able to notify them and help them with that too, which is like full service. So we're going to take a quick break here, and we'll be back in a minute. I'm speaking to Brandy Bauer from NCOA.
Take it from me, living with diabetes is no easy task, but I learned how to manage my health condition, and so can you. The Diabetes Self-Management Program is a 6-week self-management workshop created by Stanford University. The program provides you with proven strategies to manage your diabetes and reclaim your life. You will join an interactive and mutually supportive workshop whose success builds confidence to effectively manage your diabetes and allows you to maintain an active lifestyle. See how proper nutrition, exercise, and medication management help you increase your energy, manage side effects, and keep you feeling in control. You will not only receive a copy of this book, but you will get guidance and support from others like you living with diabetes.
The Diabetes Self-Management Workshop meets once a week for 6 weeks. This innovative workshop is offered to all Monmouth County residents. Call the number on your screen to register or get additional information at scannj.org.
Welcome back. Welcome to SCAN. Again, I'm Pat Bohse, and our guest here today is Brandy Bauer from NCOA. She is the administrative director of this particular program called Benefits Enrollment Center. and we are on a roll here. So I think that, you know, whatever we're seeing here, it's universal, why people won't accept benefits or won't even apply for them because they probably think they're not eligible. But what are some of the other reluctant things that you've seen seniors say or do?
Yeah, there's this real sort of pride with older adults, and I don't want to be seen as getting a handout. I've worked hard all my life. I've never had to rely on, you know, the government for handouts, and I don't want to start now. And one of the things we try to do to counter that feeling is to say, look, you've earned this. All your life you worked hard, you paid into the system, and now you need help from the system, and that's not something to feel shameful about. You know, we know that many older adults rely heavily on Social Security, but Social Security does not keep up with the cost of living. So the cost of living goes up, but your paycheck stays very modest. I mean, my father, for example, told me this past year, he got an extra $28 a month in Social Security, but his rent just went up $50. So we know that, you know, the system isn't designed to sort of reflect that cost of living increase. And another thing we tell people is, you know, if you lost your job, you feel hesitant about going to the unemployment line, for example. You'd feel like, well, that's why it exists for people who lose their, you know, their income. Don't feel that any differently just because you need assistance with food or with your heating and cooling costs.
Yeah, and I do think because of the pandemic and so many people, you know, having these needs in regards to food and transportation and rent money and all of that, I think people are looking at it a little differently in regards to accepting help versus asking for it. So I'm hoping that we'll jump on that bandwagon and keep that conversation going, because the more people we can help, the better we all are. So the other is how does someone get registered or assistance from this particular program?
Go to SCAN, go to NCOA.org, find your local benefits enrollment center if you don't live in the area served by SCAN. But, you know, we have a network of 80 of these benefits enrollment centers across the country. And I just can't emphasize how wonderful they are in providing that very personalized one-on-one assistance. They take their time. And the nice thing is that, you know, SCAN and these other benefits enrollment centers really look across the spectrum of programs. It's not just helping you to apply for SNAP. It's not just helping you to get energy assistance. It's looking across your needs and saying, what do you qualify for? How many programs can I help you with? We also have an online tool for people who may be caregivers from afar, or, you know, may be comfortable with the internet. We understand that there aren't a lot of people who are, called Benefits Checkup. And Benefits Checkup is an online free confidential screening tool that you can type in some information about your income and your situation, and it'll tell you what you might be eligible for. But even Benefits Checkup, we often point people back to their benefits enrollment center to get that one-on-one assistance.
Yeah, I know that we use the Benefit Checkup and we have our own label for that. And it's a wonderful tool, and it really dives deep into a lot of potential programs that people might be eligible for. And so again, the benefit specialists just complement that because they have the connections. I mean, we're able to make a few phone calls versus you having to wait for a call back or not getting through. So it does have to do with connections. And I'm going to put a plug in here for SCAN. So our website is scannj.org, and our direct line to our benefit enrollment center is 732-587-5906. So a little plug, sorry. So we are presently serving Monmouth and Ocean County. We are looking for additional funds to increase our presence in Ocean County. I believe Ocean County is the second largest community in the United States, next to a place in Florida. So we have a lot of seniors there, and I know that they need a lot of help too. So we're looking to expand that particular program. So what other advice would you have for seniors to boost their budgets?
Yeah, so even if you're not potentially eligible for some of these benefits that we just talked about, there are other things that you can think about to sort of boost your bottom line. One thing is to think about housing. We know from the National Council on Aging's research that about 80% of people older than 65 live in homes that they own. And we like to say that people are often house rich and cash poor. They have a lot of equity in those homes that they've lived in for many years, but that doesn't necessarily translate into money in the bank unless you sell your home, but you have to live somewhere. So what can you do with some of that equity? Maybe it's downsizing. Maybe it's bringing on someone to rent a room. There's a lot with senior and intergenerational home sharing these days, where you may have an extra bedroom or a basement and can rent that out. And then in some circumstances, you can look at things like home equity loans, line of credit, reverse mortgages. It's not for everybody, but it can be an option. Another thing I like to mention is just scams. Scams are so prevalent, and you don't want to lose your hard-earned savings to somebody who reaches out over the internet or calls you on the phone. And it's really an opportune time to sort of mention that in the context of boosting your budget, because I just hear so many sad stories, and I'm sure you probably do as well, Pat, from folks who just fall for these, stories, and it's so difficult.
Our message to them is either hang up or don't click through. just delete it. We've heard of some really terrible ones, and some of the ones on TV especially are scary, where people lose their home and they lose it technically legally because someone has stole their identity and signed forms, and no one talks about that a lot. I just think that people need to make sure that all of their information is secure. And, there's some other programs out there that they can make sure that if anyone uses their identification number or social security, that they wouldn't be notified. I mean, there's ways to do that. That does cost money, but I just think scams are running rampant, especially now. Is there any other specific ones that you know of?
I think there are probably two that we hear often. One of them is what we call the fake grandparent scam, where somebody gets a call and the person on the line says, hi, grandma, hi, grandpa, it's your grandson. And then the older adult supplies the name. Oh, it's Justin. And then they make up some story about how they're in some sort of accident, or they need bail money and don't tell my parents, but can you wire this money to me or send this to me on a gift card? That's usually a huge red flag. If somebody's asking for wired money or something that's not traceable, like a gift card, it's usually a scam. Yeah. And the other big area of scams that we hear about a lot are what we call government imposter calls. So people pretending to be from the IRS, from Social Security, from Medicare, who call folks and say, I need you to give me your personal information because your benefits are going to be cut off, or you owe a large tax bill and somebody will come arrest you. I mean, the one thing we tell people is, by and large, you're probably never going to get a call from Social Security or the IRS or Medicare. First off, in the middle of a pandemic, they've got a lot of work and they're already, pressed to have agents on the line. They're probably not calling up people randomly. But also just be very wary of anybody who's asking you for that personal information, like your Medicare number, your Social Security number.
Yeah, I think that gets really scary because in our benefit enrollment center or with our specialists, we do have to collect some of that information. And so it becomes an issue that they have to learn who we are. Number one, they have to trust us. Everything is confidential. We've developed some credentials to give to our specialists so that they can show that. I mean, we have business cards that they can call up and just verify whoever might be talking to them. But yeah, so again, because we've been around for so long, I think we're 33 years old, people do know the name and trust us. But I would rather them call and be cautious versus just giving anyone that information, because it's a nightmare to reverse it, even if you can. Right. So yeah, I agree. So tell us how we can get in touch with NCOA in the Benefits Enrollment Center, or generically.
Yeah, so if you have online access, we have a website at ncoa.org. You can actually search. We have a map of our benefits enrollment centers on our website. So if you search for that, you can find that, find if there's one in your area. Like I said, we also have this benefits checkup tool, which we're going to have a 1-800 number in the next 2 weeks associated with that. So I'm afraid I can't give it to you now, but we will have that assistance available for people who may not live near a benefits enrollment center, but want that assistance. They'll be able to call a 1-800 number and receive that over the phone.
Great. So we're going to really celebrate Boost Your Budget Week. Besides having this wonderful TV on this show on all of April, we're also going to be providing giveaways. You know, everyone likes to get something. I mean, I think I've always said this, that the key to success is free, cheap, and food. And so we'll give some stuff away. I can't wait to see everybody, to be able to do a lunch and learn and talk more about this. We'll also be doing a Facebook Live presentation. We will be using your PSAs that you've developed, which are wonderful, the whole week of Boost Your Budget Week. So people will hopefully get it at that point. So being consistent. And the other is, you know, we're making posters. We're going into all of the senior buildings and posting them so that when we get done with this pandemic, not sure when, but that they have the information to invite us in so that we can help them quickly and consistently. But I love working with NCOA. I mean, we've done other stuff with you guys, but you have been really very professional, and you speak well on behalf of seniors. So on behalf of seniors, I would like to thank you and your leadership for all of the work that they've done throughout the years. So have for the audience, have a wonderful Boost Your Budget Week, which is in April, and let's see if we can save you some money. Thank you for turning in. This is Pat Bowes, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.